With more on the lawsuit and the special session that officially sine-died or ended on Monday, I spoke with Quorum Call publisher Shawn Ashley.
Shawn, what does this lawsuit represent in terms of the relationship or lack of it between the governor and legislative leaders?
It does create an interesting dynamic. On the one hand, legislative leaders and the governor vehemently disagree with one another on one issue. In this case, what role the legislature can play in the compacting process. On the other hand, they do seem to continue to be united in some common goals, as we saw throughout the legislative session. They will point out that they have policy differences, but they remain friends and remain committed to working together to better Oklahoma.
Shawn, do we have any idea how this lawsuit will proceed or when the court might make a decision and a ruling?
There's probably little doubt that the court will grant original jurisdiction and hear arguments in the case in some form. One of the next steps will be for the legislature to respond to the governor's arguments and see how they defend what they have done and what they're accused of doing by the governor and his attorneys. I anticipate the court will hold a hearing on this case and make a decision probably relatively quickly. These bills take effect toward the end of October, so they would want to reach a decision before those extensions could begin to be filed.
So is it hyperbole to say this could blow up the budget that has been agreed upon?
That's an interesting question. And I think if you look back at the court's decisions in previous cases that could affect the budget, what they have done is to render decisions that did not adversely impact the budget. In this case, the court could find that the legislature overstepped its bounds and improperly interfered in the compacting process. Now, that potentially could affect $57 million that are scheduled to come into the state during the current fiscal year.
Shawn, so putting the lawsuit aside, what do you anticipate Governor Stitt's priorities are going to be between now and the next session? And I would think perhaps tax cuts would be near the top of that list.
I think you're exactly right. Tax cuts remain at the top of the governor's priority list. It's something he tried to get done in 2022 and in a special session in 2022 and was unsuccessful. And it was something he called for in his State of the State speech for 2023 and once again was unsuccessful in accomplishing. The big barrier to that has been the Senate. Another area we may see some activity from the governor is in criminal justice reform. In July, he appointed a task force to look at modernizing Oklahoma's criminal justice system. That 11-member task force is scheduled to issue a report to him, Speaker McCall, Pro Tem Treat, and the minority leaders in the House and the Senate by the end of this year.
So let me ask the same question about the legislative leaders. What would be the priority for, say, Gray Treat in the Senate and Charles McCall in the House?
Well, I think one thing that's clear is that compacts remain at the top of the priority list. Pro Tem Treat indicated lawmakers would have an opportunity to watch and see what the governor does. He called it like a probationary period, after which lawmakers could decide whether or not changes need to be made. House Speaker Charles McCall has also authored an interim study, which he says will probably be held in September or October, to look at compacts.
Well, Shawn, with the breaking news about the lawsuit, of course, Monday was sine-die, officially ending this very long legislative session. Pick one legislator, newer legislator from each chamber you think really made his or her presence felt in this session.
Rich, that's very hard to do. I will say this freshman class seemed to have a lot of input into legislation. I think probably the one newer legislator, if you will, who has been particularly active has been Senator Jessica Garvin. Senator Garvin was elected in 2020. She's still in her first four-year term in the state Senate, and she authored the legislation that provides for maternity leave for state employees that was passed during the 2023 regular session.
Wow, 2024. It'll probably be here before we know it. In the meantime, we'll keep an eye on that lawsuit. Shawn Ashley, publisher of Quorum Call, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.